The hotel lobby smelled of perfume and polished marble. Golden chandeliers sparkled like 1,000 suns. But to Elena, they had always felt like cruel spotlights exposing her mistakes. She was 19, balancing trays heavier than her confidence, trying to memorize orders shouted at her in impatience. That night, a group of wealthy men occupied the corner table. Their suits screamed power. Their laughter sliced through the air like knives. Elena approached carefully, her hands trembling. The tray wobbled. A glass tipped over. Red wine spilled across the white tablecloth. The laughter that erupted was sharp and merciless. Look at her hands shaking. Are you sure you belong here? One mocked. She can't even hold a tray. Maybe she should stick to cleaning floors, another sneered. Their voices echoed louder than the music, louder than her heartbeat. The humiliation burned into her skin. She whispered apologies, bowing her head, trying to clean the mess as tears blurred her vision. That was the night she swore she would never forget their faces. The fire. For months after, Elena carried that humiliation like a stone in her chest. Every time someone doubted her, she remembered those men. Every long shift, every rude customer, every coin dropped into her tip jar became fuel. She studied hospitality at night, read business books during lunch breaks, and saved every cent she could. When others saw a waitress, she saw an entrepreneur in training. Her coworkers thought she was strange. "Why do you care so much?" they'd ask. But Elena's answer was always the same: because I won't be invisible forever. The first step years passed. Elena scraped enough money to start a tiny cafe. It was nothing fancy, just a few tables, second-hand chairs, and the smell of fresh coffee spilling into the street. But what it lacked in glamour, it carried in heart. She remembered every cruel laugh when she trained her staff. She told them, "Here, no one feels small. Here, every worker is respected, every customer valued." Word spread. People didn't just come for the coffee, they came for the warmth, the humanity. Soon one cafe became two became 5. Investors began noticing, and Elena? She was no longer serving tables. She was running an empire. The return one evening years later, Elena stepped out of a sleek black car in front of a towering hotel. Cameras flashed. Reporters called her name. She was no longer the trembling waitress. She was the CEO whose chain of luxury hotels had become the talk of the industry. And this hotel, the very place where they once mocked her. She walked through the golden doors, her heels clicking against the marble floor. The chandeliers sparkled, but this time they weren't spotlights of shame, they were crowns of victory. Inside, a crowd gathered. Journalists, business leaders, staff who once overlooked her. And at the center table, yes, the same men, older now, but their faces unchanged. Their arrogance had dimmed into unease. When she took the stage, silence filled the room. One of the men, his voice trembling, finally asked, You own this place now?" Elena's lips curved into a calm, knowing smile. "Yes, I turned your laughter into my fuel. Today I don't just run hotels, I rewrite hospitality itself." The room erupted in applause. Cameras clicked furiously, like 1,000 tiny fireworks frozen in midair. Reporters scribbled every word, their pens scratching furiously as if they knew they were documenting history. The grand chandeliers shimmered above, scattering golden light across the marble floor. Staff members who once ignored her, who once passed her by without a glance, now stood at the edges of the room with awe in their eyes. Their faces reflected pride, hope, and disbelief all at once. They had seen Elena before long ago, shy, quiet, invisible. Now she stood on the stage like a queen commanding her kingdom. And those men, the very same ones who once laughed at her trembling hands, they sat frozen. Their smiles vanished, their eyes hollow. Arrogance, once their armor, crumbled to dust in front of her. They couldn't laugh now. They couldn't mock her anymore. Their silence was deafening, and to Elena it was the sweetest victory of all. Elena didn't need to insult them. She didn't need to remind them of their cruelty. She didn't need revenge. Her very presence, her success, her poise, her calm and steady power, was louder than any words could ever be. In that silence, they realized what she had become, and it burned them more deeply than any insult could have. The legacy. From that night onward, Elena was no longer just a businesswoman. She was no longer just a name on a contract or a face in a magazine. She was a legend. Her hotels became known for more than luxury. They became symbols of dignity, respect, and opportunity. Guests from every corner of the world checked in not only for marble lobbies and golden chandeliers, but for something rarer, humanity. Presidents stayed in her penthouse suites looking out over glittering skylines. Celebrities whispered about her service with admiration. World leaders praised her vision at international conferences. Awards filled her offices, plaques, trophies, medals, all testaments to her brilliance. But Elena's greatest achievement was not the glass towers, nor the five-star restaurants, nor the wealth that flowed like a river. No, her true legacy was the people. The waiters who once felt invisible now stood tall as managers. The janitors once ignored now ran entire departments. The receptionists once silenced now spoke with confidence as executives. Elena's philosophy was simple: respect every soul who walks through these doors. And it echoed through every corridor, every boardroom, every suite. She had taken an industry built on arrogance and reshaped it into one built on humanity. Flashbacks of the past as she walked through her empire, Elena often remembered. She remembered the long nights, carrying trays heavier than her body. She remembered the wine spilling on crisp white tablecloths, the laughter that cut through her heart like a blade. She remembered the way her hands trembled, the way her cheeks burned, the way her voice cracked when she whispered, "I'm sorry," but she also remembered the promise she made to herself that night. One day, they will never laugh at me again. And now, as the cameras captured her smile, as the applause thundered around her, Elena knew that promise had been fulfilled. The moral that outlived her: never underestimate someone serving you today. Tomorrow, they may be the one reshaping the very world you live in. Those words became her motto. They were printed on the walls of her hotels. They were quoted in interviews. They were taught in business schools, because once they laughed at a waitress. But now she was the woman who shut down arrogance, not with anger, not with revenge, but with grace, strength, and undeniable success. And history would never forget her. Epilogue years later. Young waiters would whisper her story to one another during long shifts. They'd say she was just like us once, tired, invisible, struggling. And look at her now. Her name became a beacon, a reminder that dignity matters, that humility matters, that arrogance always falls. And in those same hotel halls where cruel laughter once rang, now echoed a single name: Elena. Not just a businesswoman, not just a legend, but the woman who proved to the world that silence, grace, and relentless strength could shut down arrogance forever.